All right, you're
All
back.
right. Good morning, everybody. We today is Daf Pei. We want to also start the beginning of Pei Aleph Amud Aleph just to get ahead for Shavuos. So we left off the bottom line last two words, literally just a quote from the Mishnah. We were talking about the different shiurim, the different measurements, the amount, the minimal requirements of one to carry of those materials in order to be chayiv. So we say by ink, in order to go ahead and be able to write two letters, if one goes ahead and carries that amount of ink, then one would be chayiv. So the Gemara says, top of the page of Pei Amud Aleph, so Tana shtei oisios b'diyo. All right. So in other words, if you have so it's two letters from ink, right? Or oisios b'komos, or let's say you have the amount of ink, right, in a quill, or shtei oisios b'kalmerin, or the amount of ink to write two letters, right, in an inkwell. So all these cases is the amount of ink for one to be chayiv. So by Rav, oisa achas b'diyo, achas or oisa achas b'kolmos, oisa achas b'kalmerin mahu. Are they mitzaref? In other words, let's say you carry them in different ways. One is in a quill and one is by itself or whatever it is, and he carries that amount of ink. Are they mitzaref to one another? So teku. Then, so we don't know. We don't know whether they're mitzaref or not for the ink, if they're being held in different ways for the two inks to combine in order to be writing two letters. So one who carries out two letters and he writes them, let's say in the Shus Rabbim, or he wrote them as he's walking. He's chayiv. Why is he chayiv? Because we know when it comes to carrying, right, for hotzah, you need an akira and hanacha. You need an uprooting to remove it from one rishus, and you need to place it in another rishus, right? So he say ksivasan zohi hanachasan. So obviously you're carrying the ink. So where do you place it down? So the writing it is the placement of it. So that is the ksiva, is the hanacha. The Amar Rava haitzi oisa achas v'kasva v'chazva haitzi achas v'kasva. And let's say he takes out the ink for one letter, then he writes it, and then he goes back in during the same helam and with the same forgetfulness, and he brings out an ink for another letter, and then he writes it. Potter, he's potter. My time. What's the reason? Because the moment when he came and he brought out the second ink, right, to write a second letter, the ink from the first letter actually dried up, right, and it got a little smaller. And since it got smaller through the drying, therefore it no longer had the minimum shear, and therefore he is potter. The Amar Rava, haitzi chatzi gergas achas v'nicha, v'chazav haitzi chatzi gergas achas v'nicha, right? So if one goes ahead and, so he said the minimum shear of carrying out something, let's say, is a dried fig. So if let's say one carried out half a dried fig and he left it there, and then he went back inside and carried out another half dry fig, and then he put it down. Right? And then he put it there. So he said, it's like a dog ate it, or if it was burnt, right? In other words, it's not there anymore. So he put one down, then he left and he put half a dried fig down, and then he left and he brought back another dried fig and put it down next to the other one. He's put there because it's the first one. It's like the dog ate it and it's not, or burnt. It got destroyed. It's not there. So Gemara says, "V'amai hamanacha." So what do you mean? It's sitting right there. The two should be mitzaref. So the Gemara says you're right. In that case, really chayiv. Hakakam has what it means to say. If he placed one down, half a dried fig, and then he removes that one prior to him bringing a second half fig down, then you cannot go ahead and combine the two half dried figs, and then he is pater. And then in such a case, he's pater. The Amar Rav, and says Rav a further statement. So let's say one takes out a half a dried fig and he places it down in the Shus Rabbim. And then he goes back into the Shus Racha and takes another v'chazer v'haitzi chatzi gergas, and then he takes out another half a dried fig. The hevira derech aliyah, and then he passes it above the first one that he placed down. Chayiv. He is chayiv in such a case. The Gemara says, why is he chayiv? V'amai halenach. He never placed it down. He didn't place it down. So just because he passed it over it, why should he be chayiv? Remember, you have to do hanacha. He only did a hanacha of a half a dried fig. He never did a hanacha of a whole dried fig, even in two pieces. He only did one hanacha, and the other one he just passed over it. So the answer is when it was within three tefachim, right? Within three tefachim, right? We have a halacha l'moshe v'sina. We say regarding lavud, right? Something is as if it's within 3 tefachim of something. It's as if it's placed on it, and therefore one would be chayiv. Even if it's within 3, it has to be placed on something there. There has to be something there to go ahead and sort of for it to have been placed upon. So Gemara says, "Like kasha kan bezarik kan b'mavir." In the case of zarek, and there's nothing over there, so just because it's passing in the air, even if it flies within 3 tefachim of the half, with the half the dried fig, that doesn't work. However, if it's in his hand and he passes it over, since while it's in his hand, it's in something, right? Therefore, you can say lavud with that which is underneath it. So therefore, in such a case, he would be chayiv if he passed it over that second or from the original half a dried fig. Tana Rabbanan. So like similar to the case we said, if one goes ahead and takes out a half a dried fig and he goes back and he also takes out another half dried fig during one time of forgetfulness, then he is chayiv. Then a person is chayiv because we're mitzvah the two. He never had an awareness in between that either it was Shabbos or that it was forbidden to do so, and therefore he's chayiv. However, shtei alamos, but if it was 2 moments of forgetfulness, in other words, he was made aware that, hey, you just carried that out to Rishus Rabbim, and then he goes back an hour later, and then he carries out another half a dried fig, then he's patur. And Rabbi Yosi Omer b'helam echad l'reshus echad. Not only that, it has to be into one reshus. Then you're chayiv, it was to the same Rishus Rabbim. However, the shtei reshus patur. But if I go ahead and I put 1 dried fig, in other words, you can go ahead and bring it to Rishus Rabbim, one in one area and one in another area of Rishus Rabbim, you're chayiv. But if it's 2 different reshuyos, in other words, let's say my house is in between 2 different Rishus Rabbims, and I carry out to one Rishus Rabbim, and then I carry out to another Rishus Rabbim, right? The shtei reshus and patur. And Omer Rabba, and says Rabba, v'hu sheyesh chiv chatas b'neihem. So when are these 2 reshuyos divided, considered to be separate? Right? They're considered to be separate when there's an area when the 2 are not connected. In other words, let's say you have 2 reshus rabbim and there's reshus yachin in the middle. So the reshus yachin can go ahead and break up 2 different reshus rabbims to say that if I put half a dried fig in one and a half a dried fig in the other, that qualifies as 2 separate locations because there's a real divider. And the real divider, as stated in the Gemara with the first opinion of Rabbah, is that it has to be something that one would be chayiv if he carried from the reshus rabbim into this area, area in between. About Carmel is low, but if there was a Carmel just between those 2 different reshus rabbims, that does not qualify as a separator. Since the Carmelis, you would not be chayiv. A Carmelis is like a half of reshus rabbim, and therefore a Carmelis is not considered a real separator, and they'll be like you carried into one reshus, even though they're technically 2 different reshus rabbims because there's a Carmelis in between, and therefore the Carmelis doesn't divide it, and therefore you would be chayiv in such a case. Aval Carmelis lo, and Abai Yomar afilu Carmelis, Aval Pisla lo. Even if there was a Carmelis in between, that is enough of a divider. But a Pisla is like a board, which is a makom patur. Makom patur is something which is less than it's less than 3 tefachim wide, right? It's something that people do not typically walk on, and people don't typically use it for anything. So it's called a makom patur. So such a case, makom patur, that would not, but you can't have makom patur because that does separate it. And the Rav Amar afilu pisla, and even if a pisla was there, it is considered to be a separation. And the Ozda Rav and Rav goes the shitasa latam, and Vazar Rav latam, and Rav goes the shitasa dam Rav reshus Shabbos reshus gittin damya. Right? When it comes to gittin, so a husband has to, when he divorces his wife, he has to give her a get. So one of the things that he can give her is not only give it to her, but give it to either put it in her hand or a shaliach or her property. So if the husband goes ahead and says, even though normally all the property is his, so he designates, hey, you can have this for receiving purposes, and with that receiving purposes, I'm going to go ahead and throw my get onto your lawn or onto this piece of land that I give to you. If that get lands on a pisla, on a board, then Rava says, no, it's a makom patur, it's not considered hers, and therefore it's not like she received the get. So we see that a pisla, according to Rava, is considered its own reshus, and since it's own reshus, then it would separate. So then the next part of the Mishnah says, Kechol kadei l'chol eye nachas, right? In order to I guess eye coloring, in order to do one eye. So Gemara says, "Ayin achas halakachli." What do you mean? Who goes ahead and knows? If we're talking about a minimum shear, a minimum requirement, which is to tell us that this is chashuv. In other words, what is chashuv? What is chashuv is to make up, to put makeup for your eyes. But who puts makeup on one eye? So why one eye? Ayin achas halakachli. So Rav Huna shechein tznuas keichlas ayin achas. So he says, no, tznius women, they cover their face, with the scarves, right? And they only have one eye sticking out. When it comes to the chol, the eye makeup, if it's used for purposes of healing, in order to go ahead and heal one eye, right? Not always do you have both eyes have the same ailment. So that if it's for refuah, that even one eye amount is chashuv. And however, if it's to beautify, right, or to use as makeup, so basically an eye with two eyes. So we see over here it's two eyes, not one eye. So if it's large cities, a lot of people, so they have extra precaution of tznius, then they wear the scarves where basically only one of their eyes are showing, and therefore one of their eyes is showing, then they only wear makeup on one eye. But when it comes to the small villages, then they would that was the case where we said they would have enough makeup for two eyes. Skip the parentheses, devek. Right, so that was the wax. Right, so skip the parentheses. So devek kadei litain b'roiv shashafshaf. So when it comes to glue, in order the amount to go ahead and put it on the head of a board, right, or the head satana kadei litain b'roiv shashafshaf shevroish kana shel tzaydim. So you just go ahead and put glue on the end of the reeds, and they'll be very sticky in order to go ahead and trap a certain small flying animal with birds or whatever, large insects or something, in order to go ahead. So that amount of glue is considered chashuv, the amount they put on the reed, as a trap. And zevis v'gafris kadei lasses v'chulei. So the Mishnah said then, when it came to pitch and gafris and tar, right? So this in order to make a hole. So tana kadei lasses nekav katan, a small hole, right? A small hole basically to use to take a flask of mercury, right? Which they would, very small hole, right, to go ahead and pour out to use the mercury. So therefore, this material, the gefas, and it was used to go ahead and plug it up. So therefore, the amount to go ahead and plug these holes, that is the amount the minimum amount of carrying out these materials, right, the tar and the pitch, one to be chayv. And the charsis and the crushed brick kadei lasses pikur, in order to help with the pikur, right, for the little oven or cooking mechanism that those used to go ahead and the blacksmiths or the goldsmiths. So lememra the shiura de Rabbi Yehuda nafish. So if you look in the Mishnah, right? So back in the Mishnah, if I can find it, I think it was the top of yesterday's, or even two blot ago. So the top of Ayin Chesamud base. So we had with Machlokes different cases. And Rabbi Yehuda, right? We said so. Rabbi Yehuda Imer kadei lasas. I skipped the line. All right, charsis, right? The crushed brick kadei lasas pikur shel tzurizav, right? The charsis was enough to go ahead and for the those who made the gold. And Rabbi Yehuda Imer kadei lasas pitput. All right, so it says in order to go ahead and make the stool that was used for the oven. So Lameimra, the Gemara asks, the shir Rabbi Yehuda nafish. Are you telling me that Rabbi Yehuda's shir is more? In other words, there was whoever holds, right? Whoever says the smaller amount is more machmir, right? So typically, Rabbi Yehuda was staying a case. Excuse me, the Rabbanan would say halacha, and Rabbi Yehuda said even smaller, right? Rabbi Yehuda was coming to be machmir. Remember, if it's smaller, that means you're machmir, right? That means you don't have to carry as much in order to be chayiv, right? So remember, the less is more machmir. So the Gemara says, "L'meimer the shir the Rabbi Yehuda nafish." Are you telling me that the amount of Rabbi Yehuda is more, which is for the right? Ha kaimalon the shir the Rabbanan nafish. We learn that the requirement of the Rabbanan is more. In other words, the Rabbanan are more, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda comes in to argue and says to be more machmir. The time we learned the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Imer kadei litol haimeno midas bin alakatan. So we had earlier the case of the rope or the reed that was used to use to hang things, right? To hang a sieve or whatever. And it comes in Rabbi Yehuda and says, no. All you need is the length, the amount to go ahead and measure a baby's foot. Now, a baby's foot is less than that. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to be machmer. So how over here is he saying that when he says this, the crushed brick, right, to use as for the pedestal, which would seem to be more. So ema kadei lasud pitput kira katana. No, maybe means in order to basically go ahead and seal the cracks, right, that for the tripod that holds, right, that holds the oven, which is less than the amount of the actual amount of brick that's used for the goldsmith's oven. So in other words, Rabbi Yehuda is coming to go ahead and be machmer. All right, so let's go to the parentheses again. So top of the page of Pei Amud Beis. Taner Rabbanan Hamaitzi Shir Kedei Gabel B'Satit. One who goes, excuse me, not shear, seir, right? One who goes ahead and takes out hair. So how much hair is used? Kedei Legabel B'Satit. In order the amount that's used to go ahead and knead clay, right? They would sometimes use a hair to go ahead and to use it for kneading the clay. It would make it better. And however, teat itself, but the clay itself, lasas pikur shel tzarezah, right? That would be enough to use for those people who the people who were the goldsmiths, the people, the gold refiners. Those people, the amount of clay that they would use, which is a smaller amount than one goes to need, that was the clay itself. They would only use a small amount. Once it's already made into clay, then it's a smaller shear. And seed, and we said this lime kedei losser was used to basically remove hair. And it was so the amount that was used for young girls, right? If hair would start to grow early, right? So in order to remove hair, so tana kadei losud etzba katana shavano. So let's say the hands or whatever get hairy. So in other words, the amount to go ahead and put lime upon the small finger of the girls. And Amar Rav Yehuda Marav Banos Yisrael Shigin LePirkan V'lo Yigi L'Shanim, right? A young the daughters of Israel who would begin to mature early. In other words, their body would physically mature. However, they were not really old enough, and it wasn't pleasant to look at. So banos anim typhlos asam b'sid. They used to go ahead and use lime. Banos ashirim, the wealthier ones, typhlos asam b'soilas. They would use flour, right, to go ahead and remove the hair. And banos malachim and the daughters of the kings, typhlos asam b'shemen hamor. They would use shemen hamor. Shenamar Zapaz says Shisha Chodashim Shemen Hamor, right? For 6 months, it says by Esther, the 6 months you went ahead and they used Shemen Hamor, and my Shemen Hamor was Shemen Hamor. Rav Huna Bar Chia Omar Sateches, that is like perfumed oils, and Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba Omar Shemen Zayish Levia Shlish, right? It would be olive oil, but not mature a third. That was very, very fine olive oil. And Tanner Rav Yehuda Omer on Piknon, what is on Piknon? Shemen Zayish Levia Shlish. That was called Shemen Zayis that did not mature or ripen to a third, and that was very fine oil. V'lama Sachin Asay. Why did they used to go ahead and smear it with that? Shemashir sasayar umadin abasak. He used to go ahead and remove the hair and would make the skin glow. And Rav Bibi Havile Ibarte, Rav Bibi had a daughter in Tafla, Aver. He used to go ahead and he would do it one limb at a time, and to make his daughter beautiful, to use this. And Shakal ba Dalad Meos Zuze, and she had a dowry of 400 zuz. So Havi Nachi B'Shush says he had a Goyish neighbor. Havi Le Barte. So he had also a daughter. He says, oh, look, she got a fine chas, and I want to do the same thing. The Tafla B'Chad Zimna, he went ahead and he basically dipped her, right, using the same, what's it called, right, using, I guess, this lime or this type of shemen, right, or I think it was a lime. He dipped her in the lime. Right, and she died. He did all at once, and she died. He didn't do what Rav Bibi did. Rav Bibi did Aver. He did one limb at a time, and he did it all at the same time, and she died. And Omar, he said, "Kol to Rav Bibi lebarti. Rav Bibi killed my daughter." Some Rav Nachman bar Bibi. So Omar Rav Nachman. So Rav Bibi the shasi shicha ba'in banse tafla. Right. So no, Rav Bibi, I guess they used to commonly drink beer in the house, so that even his daughter would drink beer. So therefore, the beer. Basically made her, I guess, that it would basically fight off the effects of the full lime, and it wouldn't do it. However, on a delay shasina shecha, but us, we don't drink as much beer. We don't need to go ahead and smear the lime, and therefore, basically, that was the reason why it didn't affect her Bibi's daughter, and you went ahead and you did all your daughter once, and that's why you affected her. Fine. So now, if you look at once again back to the Mishnah on Ayin Ches.
Are we talking about lime powder or lime juice?
We are talking about. It's actually good you asked that, because the Gemara is actually going to get into that very soon. All right, but l'chayra, it's some sort of they would smear on, right? They would smear it on, which is some sort of like dissolvable lime. But we'll soon see this difference between the clumps of lime and actual like melted down lime. So
no, he's confusing two words: lime the fruit is different from lime. That's more like seed. It's more like a substance that's used to line pits
Right.
of,
And stuff.
to be able to collect water.
Right.
Or
It's a solid. It's used for plaster and stuff.
It's
right.
kind of like a plaster.
So when we say,
but the two words are spelled the same.
all right.
So that's why he's got it confused. It's not. We're not talking about the fruit.
Correct. Right. So the Mishnah said. So the first part said seed k'delas of katana shabanos. Rabbi Yehuda has a second opinion. Rabbi Yehuda said k'delas kilkul, the amount for a kilkul, and then Rabbi Nechemia says undapi. So kilkul and undapi are the second and third opinion. First one was the young daughters, which we just mentioned, and then kilkul and then undapi. So let's see the Gemara now. So my kilkul, my andipi. So Amarav, so tzida ubas tzida, right? The temples and below the temples, all right? That was where it was used. So the name of the shir Rabbi Yehuda nafish, right? Are you going to say that Rabbi Yehuda said nafish? In other words, you need more here than down here, right? Here was very little versus, I guess, the temples a much larger area. How come on the shir Rabbanan nafish? We learned earlier the shir Rabbanan were more. So Gemara says no. Zuti midrabanan v'nafish midrabban Nechemia. So he says no. The shear is actually smaller than the Rabbanan. The amount for young girls was more. Then the lesser amount was the temples. Then the least amount was, according to Nechemia, was the underneath the temples. So Meis Ve'asakash Amarabi there in Divrei Rabbi Yehuda bechavut, b'Divrei Nechemia bebeitz asasid. Right. So says Rabbi, the words of Rabbi Yehuda appear to be when it's dissolved. And the opinion of Rabbi Nechemia is when it's in clumps, right? Clumps. Now, if you think we're talking about the lime to use for the temples and below the temples, it's both the same kind. They're both, neither one of them are clumps, right? They're both, you can't say this one is the liquid and this one is the clumps. No, it's the same. As most dissolved lime would be used for both areas. So therefore, the pshat can't be temples and below the temples. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Debei Rabbi Ami and he says no, and difa, right? We're talking about difa. In other words, we're talking about a barrel, right, that has two different spigots and opening. That's the type. That was the lime was used for on those barrels. So Maskav Rav Kahana Adam Aisim Amperos. Right, a person's going to want to throw away his money. The lime is not going to the seal is not going to work with the lime, right? It's going to go ahead, and the wine is going to get through, and it's going to ruin his barrel of wine. It's Elam Rav Kana. So he says over here, Elam Rav Kana, Shnasleis. So he says, no, over here we're talking about, in other words, when they would mark up the different kalim used in the base of Mikdash. The time we learn in the Mishnah, Shnasleis hayu bahin. Adkan. So now, when you used to go ahead and measure out the different libations for the wine, so there were markings on the kelim itself. Adkan, the bull was the most. Adkan lepar. This is for the bull. The adkan the aisle is the ram. The adkan the kevis. So each one had markings. So we're talking about the markings, right? So in other words, that they were used for markings. That's the amount of use. The boy saying we could say my andifa apusa. Right, andifa is apusa is by the forehead. I guess they would use to make the forehead shine and remove hair. The chiha, the ho bar galil. Right, there was a person from the galil. The equal of the was in Bavel. The amr lay kum darush lana b'ma'isa merkava. Let's go ahead and darsh the ma'isa merkava. Ma'isa merkava was basically Kodesh Baruch Hu's throne, right, which was described in Navi, and only it's different visions, but was never really identified. So he says we're going to go ahead and darshan it. I'm going to go ahead and darshan for you and publicize that which Rabbi Nechemia said to his chavre. However, the nafka arisa min kaisel, there was a hornet that came out from the wall, umachte ba'andipe, and it went ahead and I guess stung his forehead, umes, and he died. And so we see the word andipe means forehead, right? And they said about him, mean delay, dale, right? He was the one who caused himself, right? He wanted to go ahead and publicize the Ma'aseh Merkava. Therefore, basically, he brought upon his own death. Fine.
Mishnah.
Mishnah says.
Okay, wait before you continue. Lime, a caustic, highly infusible solid white when pure chemically, calcium oxalate obtained by calcining limestone shells in other forms of calcium carbonate, also called quicklime, burnt-lime, caustic lime. Quicklime develops great heat when treated with water, forming a crumbly mass of slaked lime or hydrated lime, which is calcium
Eddie, we
hydroxide.
could all read. We gotta go. We gotta go to work.
That's the type of lime, but not
That's
lime.
your
Second.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
lime
yeah,
we're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
All right,
yeah.
we're moving. Submission. We'll be out here before 15.
Okay.
Adama. So when it comes to Adama, when it comes to earth, or right, when it comes to the dirt, right, the amount that one uses for a seal, so things that were sent in cargo. So they used to have large seals in order to make sure that people wouldn't go ahead and open up their cargo. No, it was a much smaller seal, a seal of a letter. So other people wouldn't open it. Zevel, right? When it came to manure, fertilizer, sand, hadak lezavel kelach shalkruv, in order the amount to go ahead and fertilize a cabbage. Say no, even smaller, lezavel karisha, even a leek. Chil hagas. And what about coarse sand? Al mele kaf seed, in order to go use on the plaster's instrument. All right, and kana. And read is kumos, in order to go ahead and make a quilt, to go ahead and be able to write upon this reed. However, or merusam. However, if the reed was too short or it was cracked, in other words, it's not usable for writing, true from an asuna beilfus. In other words, it has to be the amount. So then it's no longer going to be used as a pen. Rather, it's going to be used as fuel. And how much fuel is it? The amount of fuel needed to go ahead and cook, right? An easily cooked egg, right? Which was already, mixed up and placed in a pan. So let's see. So al male kaf seed. So tana kadei litain al kaf seed shall siding. So a plaster, some of the plasters that they use a thing for the drywall. So the amount of plaster that's needed on there, so that was the amount of dirt, I guess, that would be placed in there in order for them to go ahead and plaster. So Montana, the choyle seed, and who was the opinion who holds that the amount that sand is good, right, for plaster? Some Rabbi Yehuda, that's opinion Rabbi Yehuda. The time of the Brisa lo yisod adam as base of a seed elam kain irba teven avachol. So after the churban bayis, a person should not have a beautiful home such that they should not use this very fine lime for their house. And the only type of lime you could use is if you mix in, right, either straw or sand, because it takes away from the beauty of the plaster. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Teven mutter chol aser. Says no, Teven is mutter as long as you have straw in there. That's mutter. However, chol, if you put sand in there, then it's aser because it makes it beautiful. So we see Rabbi Yehuda was the opinion of that sand makes it beautiful. Right? Because it makes it right? Because it what's it called? Because the sand it makes a very strong plaster, and therefore it would be no good. And however, that's the place. And Rav Amar afilu teim rabbanan, even if it's rabbanan, right? Kilkula zo tikuna. In other words, when it says, when they say they both are mutter, in other words, since both of them basically make it, right? Since it takes away from it, that's the way that why it's mutter. So therefore, even if it says rabbanan, so kikulo is a tikuna, right? But the fact that makes it worse is really makes it better because now it makes it usable to use for your homes. So Kana, we said the reed kadei lasas kulmos in order to make a pen. So Tana kulmos hamagia lekishrei atzbaisav has to come to your joints, to your finger joints, to your knuckles. So boy Ravashi kasher elyon kasher tachton. Is it the upper joints or the lower joints? How long does does the quill have to, or the pen have to be, the reed have to be to your hands? So take it. The Gemara does not give an answer. Female of it, but it was too thick. So Tana trufa b'shemen v'nesuna bilfus. It has to be go ahead and mixed, right, with oil and placed in a skillet or whatever for it to be cooking. And Amar le Mar Beri Ravina Lebrei Mishmi Lecha Beitza Kala Mahi. Have you guys heard what the Mishnah said? The Beitza Kala, right? A light egg. What that means? Amar le Biyasa the right? It's like a small dove. So my time we should do suja because it's small. So Emat Tzifrasa. So what about a hummingbird? That's even smaller. Why don't you have the egg of a hummingbird and therefore the amount of fuel it takes to go ahead and cook such an egg? So Ishtiki was quiet. So now he had a kasha. Why not that bird? So he said, have you heard anything on this matter? Beitza tarnagolas. Really, the egg, the smallest egg is really the egg of a chicken. Well, my karle beitza kala. Why is it called the easiest egg? It says shir chamim in lecha beitza kala lavasha yosim beitza tarnagos. Because the egg of a chicken is actually the easiest egg to cook. And Omaishna kol shir Shabbos kagagras v'hakabeitza. What's the reason by all the different measurements? By in Shabbos we say a dried fig, and over here we're talking it has to be an egg, cook an egg. So in other words, you have to cook the amount of a dried fig of an egg. That's the amount of fuel needed. In other words, so let's say a dried fig is, let's say, half an egg. So it has to be able, the amount of fuel to be able to cook half an egg. Fine. Now your Mishnah. Mishnah says on top of Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, this is actually tomorrow's daf, but like I said, we want to get ahead for Shavuos. We're just going to get to the bottom line of this Amud. It goes quick. So etzem kadei lasais tarvud. So a bone, how much bone do you have to carry out on Shabbos? So the amount to go ahead and make a spoon. Right? Excuse me. In order to go ahead and make a lock from it, all right, from a key lock, we'll soon see that is the amount of bone. Bones were typically used, for the door lock. So that amount of bone won't be high for zuchuchis when it comes to glass. Kadei ligraba rosh hakarkur. Right, when it amount to go ahead to scrape the, they used to go ahead when weaving, make sure, to cut the threads and make sure it's all lined up. So you used to go ahead and be able to go ahead and to cut any loose ends on the, on the pick that they were using. And sarur or evan and a stone or pebble, to throw at a bird, right, to get its attention, to get it to go away. And Yaakov, or throw an animal. So let's see the Gemara. So Lameimra Deshir the Rabbi Yehuda Nafish. Once again, the Gemara asks, Rabbi Yehuda had the second opinion. First one said bone amount to make a spoon, and then we say it amount to make a lock, right? So the Gemara, which seems to sound like it's a whole lock contraption, it seems to be larger. So maybe the Shir the Rabbi Yehuda Nafish, how come along the Shir the Rabbanan Nafish? We learned that the Shir of Rabbanan was a larger amount, and Rabbi Yehuda says a smaller amount because it comes to be machmir. So we're talking about basically the teeth of the lock, the amount that the thing that's inside, that small amount of bone, which is less than the bone needed to make a spoon. And speaking of which, the inner lock chavi pesachas, they are tar. All right, they're tar because it's not considered to be a kli. However, kavam b'pesachas, once you go ahead and install it into the lock, now it becomes a kli. And tmein, and therefore it is susceptible to tuma, right? Raw materials are not susceptible to tuma. Only kalim utensils are susceptible to tuma. The shalgal, and if it's that already of a gate, even if it's already attached to a door and it's considered to be a full-fledged utensil, the kavam masarim tarim, right? And you go ahead and you attach it and you put it in with nails. It's still tar shachol machaber lekark because anything attached to the ground, harehu kakark, is like ground, and something which is attached to the ground is not makabel tuma. Fine. Zechuchis kadei ligrabo. So he said over here that the glass is in order to go ahead and cut off or scrape away. So Tana zechuchis, right, with the samach over here. Rashi gives a pshat why it's zechuchi with the samach and one who gazes right through into glass. Zechuchis kadei lipsoba shnei nimin kachas. To go ahead and be able to cut two strings at once, it has to be large enough piece of glass in order to be effective to cut two strings from the weaver's weave all at once. And Surah Evan, Kadei Lizak Ba'oif, Rabbi Eliezer says, no, even it has to be thrown at a animal. So Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, V'hu Shemagar Shabo, right? The animal has to feel it. In other words, you throw a rock big enough to hit an animal where it notices it, that is a large enough rock or stone on Shabbos. We'll soon say iron stones muksa. We'll soon see why stones are not muksa. The kama shira and hamaz shira. Satana Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov mishkil esrim zuz. It has to be the weight of 10 zuz. So Zunin al lebei midrasha. So Zunin went to the base medrash. Amrlu Rabbi Isai avonim shel beis akisei shurun bekam. Right? What are the measurements of stones used for the basic kisi? Now, back then, right, as many of you know, we had a toilet paper shortage, and people ran out, and perhaps they used stones. So stones were used in basic kisi. Now, normally stones are muks on Shabbos one cannot use. However, because of the special heterim for people to use in order to be able to wipe, so therefore they were allowed to go ahead and use stones on Shabbos. All right. So we say, Shirin Bikama, how much is now? Once again, you can't doesn't mean you can carry out the Shus Rabbim, but we're talking about stones that were for you to be able to carry in a permissible place to carry. So
Don't
these
you have to designate it first, Rabbi, before Shabbos?
let's see. Do you have to designate or not? So let's see. So Shel Beis Akisa Shirin Bikama, how much? So Kazayis Keegos Ukabetza. Right? One, your first stone should be a small amount, I guess, the deeper white. So that is a kazayas, then an egos and a nut, and then the size of an egg. So Amar Luhu, the Chish or Tani Yachnis, right? What do you mean? The guy's going to take he's going to measure each one? He doesn't have that. So Nina Begam said, no, okay, Malayad, a handful of stones, you're allowed to go ahead and take to the base of Kisei. So Tana Rabbi Yosi, Kazayas Kegos Kabetza, and Rabbi Yosi says size of a Kazayas egos and a Kabetza, and Rabbi Yosi, Mishum Aviv Milay Hayad, or a handful. And Tana Rabbanan. Gimel Avanim, Murkslos Mutar Lahachnis the Beis Akize. So he said, so 3 stones they allowed to go ahead and to bring 3 sharp stones. One is mutar to bring into the Beis Akize. The Kamashir and how large? Rav Meir Egos, the size of an egos. Ideally, it should be the size of an egos, right? Which was the middle shear. And Rabbi Huda Emir Kabetza, he says no, you can use the large ones the size of an egg. Amar Rafa, Amar Bar Papa, Amar Rav Chiza, Kamachlokas Kan, Kamachlokas Be'esrog, right? Just like the Machlokas here, so too is Machlokas in Esrog. Does an Esrog by Sukkos have to be the size of a nut or the size of an egg? So in Hasa Masnis and Hacha Brisa. So Gemara says, what are you talking about? Right? Over there, it's a Mishnah. Here's a Brisa. So why are you saying, what's a good way to remember the Mishnah is by remembering this Brisa? Obvious, opposite, right? Mishnayos are better known than Brisas. So just like an esrog, you know the machlokes between them is between an egos and a kabetza. So to over here, the machlokes is when it comes to the size of stones, is it the size of eggs? Is it the size of a nut or the size of a kabetza? And Amar Rav Yehuda aval lo esapais. One should not go ahead and use pies to go ahead and clean oneself after he goes to the bathroom. Samai pies. Amar Rav Zera karshina bavasa. Right? It was, I guess, this different stone or clay that they had in Bavel. They would fall apart. And Amar Rav, since they fall apart, it would be dangerous. And Amar Rav asur l'mashesh b'tzora b'shabbos kadesh b'shamash b'chol. A person is forbidden to go ahead and basically mishamesh is basically to open up or to activate, right, his bowels in order for him to be able to go to the bathroom, loosen things up with a stone like he could do on Shabbos because he'll be tearing hair. So Gemara says, "Maskavar marzucha listakin." Right? So what? A person should go in danger. We know it's dangerous to hold it in, not to go to the bathroom for a long time. So what? So he should be in danger. So Gemara says, no, do it klach or yad. Do it in an abnormal way for it to be mutter. And Amar Rabbi Yanai, im yesh makom kavula beis hakisei malaya yad. If a person has a regular area beis hakisei or where people often go, he'll go later on, or other people will use it. Then you can bring a full handful of stones there on Shabbos. Why? Because then, even if you don't use it now, you'll use it later. So therefore, you can take more that's needed now because you're taking it to a beis hakisei, to an established bathroom. And im lav, but however, if he's just going to a place which is going to be a one-time thing, never use it again, then kahechra, then he should go ahead and just take the average amount of, and take the size of egos of nuts. And meducha katanim shel b'samim, and so he said, and if not, so a meducha katanim shel b'samim. You're allowed to go ahead. So meducha katanim shel b'samim. Right. So he says over there that one is if he has something, a small mortar that was used to go ahead and best chop spices. So Amrav Sheshes aid mutter. Right. If it was already used, there was aid. Right. Aid means a witness. Right. You can testify whether it was used before because it's dirty. Right. If there was already a reason that was already used, then you can use it again. Why? Because once it's used to clean after the beis hakisei, it's no longer going to be used by your wife, for her spice rack. So therefore, now this is basically something this is going to be permanently used for wiping, right, or for cleaning, as opposed to breaking down your spices for your food. So meisvei, so you're telling me that you can go ahead and reuse this object. So asar dvar mevina esad only day tachtainat. There are 10 things that bring a person to hemorrhoids. So these are the leaves of reeds, gafanim, and leaves of vines, gafanim, and the shoots of vines, or marige behema, and beloy malach, and also like the different, I guess the bumpiness, like tongue or something of which has like the non-smooth parts of the animal that were not salted, v'shida shel dog, or the spine of a fish, v'dog maliach shalei bishul kol tzarcho, or salted fish is not cooked all the way, v'hasheisa shemer yayin, one who goes ahead and drinks the sediment of wine sediment, v'mekaneach b'seed, one who goes ahead and cleans himself with seed, with lime, or v'charsis, or with earthenware, right? But then it says with the stone that was used by a friend. And to reuse a stone is no good. Also one who basically doesn't sit and he sort of squats in a basic kisei. So we see over here that you should not reuse something. What do you mean? So we just said before, if something was already used once, a mortar was used once, you can go ahead and reuse it. Over here, it seems to say that that's going to go ahead and bring damage to you. So the kash is not a contradiction. Habalach, habal yavesh. Either one is if it's still moist, right? If it's still, dirty, then that's no good. But if it's already dried up, right, then it'll be fine. If the Ibo say, or if it was only one side, you can use the other side. But if it's both sides, then you can't use it at all. Then it'll cause hemorrhoids. The Ibo say, where you can say, or maybe you can reuse your own, but you can't go ahead and use someone else's. And finally, let's say it rained and it sort of got cleaned off. What's halacha there? So if you see that there's still some, that it was once used, right? There is some residue still on it, then it's mutter, because then this mortar is now no longer usable as a mortar, which would be asar and Shabbos. Rather, now this become a wiping utensil for the purpose of bathroom. All right, we'll stop here at the bottom line. Tomorrow, Mr. Shem, will continue here. Hopefully, we'll get completely one blot ahead. Therefore, we will not fall behind at all on Shavuos. Everyone have a wonderful day, and please stay safe. Thank you. Shkoyach.